So it comes on, and then after a while, same thing.
We're able to join it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. Somehow 4 or 5 times now kicked me out, saying there's another meeting going on, which is not supposed to be.
Maybe somebody else is trying to log in or use the same one.
I'm sorry, Prabhu?
Maybe somebody else is also trying to use the same link.
But they're not supposed to, because it's reserved for me.
Okay.
But even if somebody logs in, we'll all will join there. At least we'll see that if the right.
Yeah.
I don't think they're letting us in though.
So I don't know, some kind of a ghost. Okay, so let's start with our prayers. I'm going to put the Pranami mantra and let's share the screen. Pranami mantra, share. Would anybody like to lead it? Any brave person?
I can do it, Prabhu.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Prabhuji, one time I'll say and one time you all will say?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine.
Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshatarine.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasa Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Vancha kalpatarubhaya cha sindhubhaya eva cha
Patitanam pavanebhyo namo namah.
Kripa Sindhu Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Aditi. Okay, so somebody needs to mute. See who needs to be there. Okay, mute it.
Because on the yellow screen it's there, that means it's done.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So you just move it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So I see some new faces. So can I please ask you if this is your first time? If you can please introduce yourself and put your video on when you do that, please. I'd appreciate that. So only if this is your first time. Nobody? Okay, so maybe I didn't see the names last time. I see a VHD. Can you please identify yourself? I don't remember seeing you. Oh, okay, that's you. Okay, now I see
Hare
it.
Krishna Prabhuji,
Yes,
Dhanapram. This is my second time, so.
Yes, I know. Now I see your face. Now I know. I just didn't see
Okay,
that.
okay, Hare Krishna.
Okay, and Rekha Berry, Mataji, were you? Again, I may not recognize the name. Hare Krishna, Rekha Berry, Mataji.
Prabhu, it's me, same person. I'm just at different place right now.
Oh, Damodar Charan.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, I also see. I guess that's about it. Hare Krishna, Shilpi. Okay.
हे असे चेंजेस का होत असतात?
Prabhu, that's so nice. We started something around with 12 or 15 and we have 34 now.
Yes, that's
Wow.
So
Oh
I
my
also
God.
want to add that if for whatever reason you're really uncomfortable turning your video on, that's fine. I mean, if there's a problem, don't do it. But it's just understand the reason I keep saying this is that it's uncomfortable for me to see only blank screen when I'm talking. So I think there's enough of you with your video on. So I'm not going to insist, but I think if you can, you should leave a video on, okay? But not a big issue. I don't want to make a big issue of this. Okay, so excuse me. Let's get started. I am really happy and I want to welcome every one of you to this program. This program is about you. I should say for you. And I really want to welcome you to this whole series of 26 classes where we will discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm sure some of you know that Srimad Bhagavatam has 12 cantos, which is like sections, you can say, and has got something like 335 chapters and 18,000 verses. So it's a big, book. And normally it would take around 3 years to just read it from beginning to end. And clearly we're not making that kind of commitment. And we're only talking about 26 weeks. But even 26 weeks is a lot of commitment. I recognize that. And I want to thank you for committing to attend those 26 weeks, which is almost half a year. Well, actually half a year. And obviously what that means is that with so many verses and so many chapters, we'll only scratch the surface and we'll cover only a few portions, particularly focusing on the pastimes of the Lord. We won't get into deep philosophy. However, if anybody feels like asking a question, feel free, and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay. For those of you who were with us for the last 4 weeks, you know that we covered the pastimes, specifically, I should say, the Kartik pastimes of the Lord. And the whole idea was to get you attracted to and in the mood of listening to other pastimes mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. And I honestly pray and I hope that I've had some degree of success in arousing your interest in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And to be extremely transparent with you, my goal is to get every one of you to start studying Srimad Bhagavatam regularly. Even if it's about 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, it doesn't matter. But if you can do that every day, and if you already have a set, wonderful, start reading. And if you don't have it, let me know and I can make arrangements for you to receive. Certainly in Vancouver and Calgary, I can do that, and GTA, I can do that. If you're in any other area, you may need to speak to your temple and get a copy from there. Okay, and we may actually even be able to deliver the whole set to your home if, especially like in Toronto, the temple is closed. So that's a problem. Let me know and I can arrange it. Okay. Now, I also want to mention that there is a book called Nectar of Devotion, which is basically our law book for the process of performance of devotional service, and written by Rupa Goswami. And according to Nectar of Devotion, there are 64 limbs of devotional service. And reading Srimad Bhagavatam is one of those 64 limbs. And actually, Lord Chaitanya later on says, actually out of the 64, 5 are main, and reading Srimad Bhagavatam is one of those 5 as well. So it's considered very important by all our acharyas, including Lord Chaitanya. And so why do we want to do that? The main purpose is to purify ourselves and basically attract Krishna's attention that, look, we are trying. Just that's it. My dear Lord Krishna, we are trying to serve you. And we are starting with reading your pastimes, reading about you, your incarnations, etc., etc. We'll get into that. Okay. Before I get any further, I was specifically asked to cover one topic, which is what is the difference between Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam? And I think it's an excellent question. So let's spend a few minutes talking about that. And instead of me answering, maybe there's somebody among you who would like to answer that. What is the difference between Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam? Any brave person will do.
So, Prabhuji, as per my modest understanding, Bhagavad Gita is the instructions of the God, it's instructions of Krishna, and Bhagavatam has the pastimes of Krishna.
Okay, so very good. Anybody wants to add? Aditi, you had your hand up.
I had exactly the same answer.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Anybody else?
Guruji, if I may attempt to add, Bhagavad Gita also has the pastimes related to the devotees of Krishna.
Say again.
I'm saying Bhagavad Gita also has the pastimes of devotees.
Can you
Like
elaborate on that? Sonam, can you elaborate on that?
So as the chapter where we have the teachings of Lord Rishabdev, and then there are few stories which are about devotees.
No. So you meant, I think you said the other way around. So what you meant was Srimad Bhagavatam has pastime of the devotees.
Yeah.
Okay, you said Gita, that's why I got confused.
No. So and also it also the another difference is that it's not directly spoken by Krishna, whereas Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Krishna.
Yes. Okay, very good. And anybody else? Anything you want to add? Yes.
गीता महाभारत का एक पार्ट है
Yes, very good. Gita is part of Mahabharata. Yes.
और भागवत एक अलग से उन्होंने ग्रंथ लिखा जब उनको शांति मिलेगी.
That is correct. Yes. Radhavanapu?
Yeah, Prabhu, Bhagavad Gita talks about 5 subject matter. If you want, can we go up to there?
No, don't go into that much detail.
Okay, so leave it then.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, so basic difference you understand?
Yeah.
And Bhagavad Gita has only 700 verses, Bhagavatam has 18,000.
18,000.
Right? Okay, and it was spoken at the time of the Battle of Kurukshetra, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken after Krishna had left this planet, and Maharaj Parikshit had been cursed to die in 7 days. Okay, so that's very high level differences. Okay.
Prabhu, can we also say Bhagavatam is a summary of 17 Puranas? Is it like that or no?
It's a summary of all the Vedas, yes.
Vedas, yeah.
That's correct.
This is
Okay. So you may have noticed the title of today's class. So who can tell me what the class title is today?
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Glorifications of Bhagavatam.
Very good. Excellent. Yes, the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. So why are we starting with that? Because if we don't understand the importance, the glory of the book, our interest level may not be as high. So if you understand, why is it so glorious and who says it's so glorious, who's glorifying it, then starts to, develop more further attraction to the book. Okay. So I'd like to say, first of all, it is actually glorified in the other Puranas, like Skanda Puran, like Padma Puran. So that should right away raise a question in your mind. And that question should be, wait a minute, Skanda Puran, Padma Puran, they were all written before Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the last Purana. Srimad Bhagavatam is the last Purana that Vyasadeva wrote. So how can something that was written before have glorification of something that would be written? At that time, it was not even written. Right? So that should really be the question in your mind, and we'll discuss that. So I'm not asking you to answer it, but I think that should be the first question. Like, wait a minute, is he just making this up? Because other Puranas were written before. So let's discuss that also. Okay. But I am going to ask you one question, and I'm going to warn you, it's a trick question. How many Vedas did Vyasadeva wrote? Question. So be careful.
One Veda divided into 4.
Haribol, yes, very good, excellent. So yes, he wrote only one Veda, and then later on he divided into 4 different Vedas. So Atharvaveda, Rigveda, Samveda, and Yajurveda. Right? So yeah, so he wrote that one, he divided into 4 parts later on, and then he wrote 108 Upanishads. Upanishads you can think of them as supplements of the Vedas, and literally the meaning is to sit near, and obviously the implication is sit near God. So they help you sit near the God, means help you understand God. And he wrote 17 Puranas after that to clearly explain what he had written in other Vedas. So he had written now say 4 Vedas. He had written the Vedanta Sutras, which are the summaries. He had written the Vedanta, which is, again, summary, and 100 Upanishads, 17 Puranas. He wrote all that, everything written by Vyasadeva. Nobody else.
Just one question. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
So I just wanted to confirm, because I've heard from so many different sources that the Vedas were actually written by Ganesha. Is it true or not?
So no, it's not true. What is true is when time came to write Mahabharata, Vyasadeva said, I need a scribe. So the Lord provided Lord Ganesh as the scribe, but he put a condition. He put a condition that I will write as long as you don't stop. The moment you stop dictating, I'll stop and then I won't write further. So Vyasadeva is smart as well. So he said, okay, I agree, but you have to promise that you will not write anything until you understand this fully. Now, there were the 2 conditions. Vyasadeva is saying, don't write anything unless you understand this fully. Ganeshji is saying, I will not any further if you stop saying. So why is that? Because Vyasadeva said, Vyasadeva did, he would say something very complicated. And Ganeshji would say, what? And he starts raising his head. And he'll take that time to take a bio break and all those kind of things. He'll come back. Did you understand? No? Okay, he'll explain it. Continue. So this is a nice game going on between two very great personalities. Okay, Rajan Prabhu? Can everyone please mute yourself? Huh?
This is my way. So you are a thinker.
Tell who's anyway.
Thinker is called Muni.
Okay. All right. So he was not satisfied.
Prabhuji, I have a question. I always heard like there were 18 Puranas, but you told it is 17 Puranas, right?
Right.
Like so what is that? What is the difference?
So 18th Purana is the Srimad Bhagavatam, which I haven't talked about.
Okay.
So I said he written 17 and the Puranas and the 4 Vedas and the Vedanta Sutra and Vedanta and all those kind of things, but he was not satisfied. So I'm leading to how he came to 18th Purana.
Okay. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Sure, no worries. Okay, so he was not satisfied. So I'll talk in more detail about next week, but basically, so he meditated upon his guru Narad Muni, who came to him and inspired him to write Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll discuss that whole pastime of how he meditated and Narad Muni came and inspired him to write the Srimad Bhagavatam next week. But for today, it's just enough to say that he got inspiration from Narad Muni because he was not satisfied having written all these books, including the 17 Puranas. So then he wrote 18th Purana known as Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? So basically, again, what it means is, go back to the same question, which is, so Srimad Bhagavatam is the last Purana to be written. So how come Skanda Purana, Padma Purana and all these Puranas were glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam that was not even written? Okay, so you understand my question, why I'm asking that? So the answer is that, first of all, Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. And as you know, one quality of Krishna is he's eternal. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is eternal. And I'll explain that furthermore. Sometimes it manifests, sometimes it unmanifests. But it is eternal. And therefore, once Vyasadeva got inspiration to write this, he started. And once he got the inspiration from Narad Muni, he started writing Srimad Bhagavatam. But before that, like how did he write Puranas? Let me talk about something else. Vedas are also known as Shruti. Does anybody know what Shruti means?
Hearing.
Something you hear. And Puranas are known as Smriti. Sorry?
Memory.
Yeah, so my wife is saying memory. So basically, it's your realizations you start remembering. So that's what Puranas are. So when he was writing the first 17 Puranas, they were not because he heard something, but because he realized something and sort of came to his memory. He wrote that. So therefore, as he was being inspired to write the first 17, he was being inspired to also remember what he was going to write without even knowing in the 18th. So therefore, it contains information about Srimad Bhagavatam. So for example, there's a lot of pastimes of Krishna and Vishnu that are included in other Puranas, which are also in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, just so you understand. I hope I'm not confusing you. So I hope it's clear. Okay, so she was getting the vision of various pastimes. And the reason again was why he was doing that, or rather getting the visions, was that Srimad Bhagavatam has been narrated many times by the Lord to various devotees who in turn have recited to others. So for example, Lord Krishna narrated Srimad Bhagavatam twice to Lord Brahma. Once in the form of what's known as Chatushloki, only 4 verses, and again in more detail. And both points are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. And over the next hour or so, I'm going to describe other circumstances in which some of the other narrations occurred. Okay, so once again, I'm going to pause because I know I've spoken too much and probably too fast. So I don't know if I've confused everyone. So please, I'm going to pause, let you ask any questions to make sure it's clear on this point. Okay, that's good. You're not confused. Makes
Sorry,
my...
I got.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to, if you can elaborate on the last point that you mentioned about Chatushloki, that was conveyed by, it was said by Krishna to Brahma. So
Yeah,
if it is
so basically, in Bhagavatam is described that Krishna basically spoke the 4 verses through his flute into the heart of Lord Brahma. And those 4 verses contain entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Later on, Lord Brahma explained to Narada, who then explained to Vyasadeva, etc., etc. So, I mean, they are I think they're in the 2nd canto or the 3rd canto, that you can read and you can see that the entire summary of Srimad Bhagavatam is contained in those 4 verses. They're known as Chatushloki. Chatur means 4, Shloki means verses. Okay? All right. Excuse me. So let's then start to discuss some of the times when Srimad Bhagavatam was narrated from a devotee to a devotee.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ramke.
Why Vedas are called Shruti? Because we also listen plus as well as what is that? A listening plus we also talk about the Vedas, right?
No, I'm still talking about how they came about. So Vyasadeva heard from his spiritual master Narad Muni, who had heard it from Brahma, who had heard it from Krishna. So it's only oral reception.
Okay.
This is the word Shruti.
Oh, it's not about we should only listen. It's
No,
not about
no. It's how they came about.
Okay.
Okay. So remember I was saying Puranas are by memory, Smriti,
Yeah.
Vedas are by hearing. That's how they came about.
Okay.
Okay. But I'm glad you asked that because that's a good question. Very good question. Okay. So first time, no, not necessarily first time, but one time, there was a king by the name of Vajranab. Anybody knows who that is?
Krishna's grandson.
Grandson?
Oh, great grandson.
Great grandson, yes.
Yes.
Great grandson. Okay, so, and his grandson Aniruddha, and who's the son of Pradyumna, who's the son of Krishna. Okay, so Vajranab became the king of Mathura. About the same time that King Parikshit became the king of Hastinapur. So what had happened was, you may know the story about Lord Krishna and his whole family visiting Kurukshetra during solar eclipse. And at that time, Vajranab's mother, when she was carrying Vajranab in her womb, met Radharani. Like all the gopis, including Radharani, had also come from Vrindavan to Kurukshetra at that time to meet Krishna. So Vajranab's would-be mother, I should say, met Radharani, and she served him extremely nicely. Radharani was so pleased, she blessed her that your son will manifest all the places of pastimes, I should say Krishna's pastimes in Vraja, and he will become king of Mathura. What a blessing. So therefore, Vajranab was destined to find all the places of pastimes of Krishna. He's also the person who had the deities of Krishna carved, famous deities like Gopinath, Govindji, and Madan Mohan. They were carved by, Vajranab. So anyway, so once King Parikshit visited Vajranab, and he looked kind of worried. Vajranab looked worried. So King Parikshit misunderstood. He said, don't worry, you become king of Mathura, but my army will protect you. And Vajranab said, well, hold on. I'm a Kshatriya. I can protect myself. That's not my issue. My issue is there's nobody living here in Mathura. I have no subjects. And the reason is that Jarasandh had destroyed Mathura completely after Lord Krishna moved everybody from Mathura to, where did they go? Dwarka. Okay, hopefully everybody knows that pastime. So Krishna had moved everybody from Mathura overnight, from Mathura to Dwarka. And so when Jarasandh came, he didn't find anybody. So basically whatever was left, buildings and all, he just completely destroyed it. So Vijayanath said, I have no people. So what to do? So Parikshit Maharaj said, don't worry. I'm going to go back and I'm going to send my priests, my money, and some people at least, some of my people, and let's have a gathering where Krishna Katha will be spoken. And when that was arranged, all the wives of Lord Krishna came to attend and hear. And they came one by one. And when Kalindi, who was one of the wives of Lord Krishna, came, they noticed that she's looking very happy. And they were shocked. They said, Kalindi, we don't understand. How come you're looking so happy? We are all so sad due to separation from Krishna, who has left this planet. And you're looking happy, so chirpy. What's going on? So Kalindi said, I have accepted servitorship of Radharani. So therefore, I'm able to see all the pastimes of Krishna and Radha and everything else all the time. So therefore, I'm very happy. So then the other queens said, wait a minute, that makes sense. So we want to do the same thing. How do we see those pastimes? And Kalindi said, only a devotee can manifest those pastimes. So what did they do? They chanted Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And when they were doing that, Uddhava manifested. Now, anybody knows who Uddhava is in relation to Krishna?
Cousin.
Yes. Damodar Charan Prabhu ki jai. Yes. Very good. Very good. He's the cousin, and he looks almost identical to Krishna, by the way. And he was the one person that Krishna always went to in Dwarka for advice. So he was Krishna's consultant as well. So he appeared. And he sat with them. He narrated Srimad Bhagavatam for a whole month to them. And where did they sit? They sat at the foothills of Govardhan in Vrindavan. But what happened was that on the very first day, as Uddhava was starting, King Parikshit got a message from Hastinapur. By the way, I just want to make sure, does everybody know what Hastinapur is called today?
Delhi.
Delhi, yes. Delhi. So it's not very far, about what, 2 hours, 2.5 hours by car? So not very far. But anyway, he got a message that you're required, your presence is required in Hastinapur. And it was emergency, so he said, I have to go. But he really didn't want to go, he wanted to hear the pastimes. So he went to Uddhava and said, what do I do? I have to leave, but then when will I hear the Srimad Bhagavatam? And Uddhava said, don't worry, there will be a special recitation for you. And that's the one that Shukadeva Goswami narrated to Parikshit Maharaj. And Uddhava said, and that's how people, general people will hear Srimad Bhagavatam, the version that you hear. So I'm sure you all know that Shukadeva Goswami narrated Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. So anyway, so Uddhava continued, and very soon Lord Krishna appeared. Actually, he appeared and he said, I was here all these 30 days and I've been hearing Srimad Bhagavatam because you're saying it with a lot of sentiments and every listener here is paying attention. So the listeners then made another request. All the people who are listening, they made another request to Krishna. They said, my dear Lord Krishna, please appear wherever and whenever Srimad Bhagavatam is being narrated. So please, my dear Lord Krishna, appear wherever, whenever Srimad Bhagavatam is narrated. And Krishna said, Tathastu, so be it. So therefore, wherever, whenever Srimad Bhagavatam is recited, Krishna manifests as his name, and he appears personally if both the speaker and the audience are pure and participating with full focus and attention, with love in their heart. So my question to you is, do you think Krishna is listening to this class?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. As long as we're paying attention, as long as we have some degree of love in our heart and we're hearing it with great faith and great love, Krishna is here listening. Yeah, and this is not a joke. This is serious. He is listening, sitting with us. One of the boxes we don't see, that says Krishna. Actually, there's a box that says Krishna anyway, but I'm talking about Krishna.
Prabhuji, can you please ask him to put the video on?
Her, it's a her actually. It's Krishna Bhanj, you can see. Oh, the other Krishna.
Yeah.
Says,
Actual Krishna.
Actual Krishna says, unless everybody turns it on, I'm not turning it on. No, I'm just joking. Just joking. Don't feel forced to turn it on. Okay. So that happened, what, 5,000 years ago. So let me pause before I get to the second time that, it was narrated. Any questions or comments?
Prabhuji, one question, comment. Isn't Delhi the Indraprasth where Pandavas established Indraprasth after from Khandavan, and Hastinapur is in UP, somewhere in UP?
No, as far as I know, Hastinapur is Delhi.
And then Indraprasth?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where it is, but it's away from there. It's closer to, as far as I know, but I don't know exactly where it is.
Okay.
Does anybody in the audience know? Okay, we'll find out. I don't know the answer.
I think, Prabhu, it says Amravati, close to center of the India, Maharashtra, where it called.
Oh, okay, all right then. That's what it is. It looks like in Madhya Pradesh. Okay. All right. So let's go to the second story. So Narad Muni is famous for one thing. He's constantly traveling. He had been cursed by a person by the name of Daksha. And he's constantly traveling. He just cannot stay any place. And so as he's going from place to place to place, he observes all sorts of activities, many of which are sinful. And so what he noticed was that especially in the place of pilgrimage, there are a lot of sinful activities happening. So that made him very upset. And he traveled to Vrindavan. But then funny thing happened in Vrindavan. He saw a very anxious looking, a very upset young woman with two old men sitting down. So he asked her, Mataji, who are you? And she said, I am Bhakti, devotional service. So Narada said, oh, why are you looking so much anxiety? And she said, I've been traveling throughout India. And I've been going from places to places to places, from south to north. And over time, all three of us, my two sons and me, we got old over time. But when we came to Vrindavan, I became young. But my sons didn't. So they still look old. And she said to Narad Muni, people are not performing devotional service. And she said, if you don't help me, then I am going to go across the ocean and reside there. And by the way, that did happen in 1965. Srila Prabhupada took Bhakti to USA. And he came back from USA to India and other places. So Narada said, no, please don't do that. Please don't. I promise I'll make your sons young again. And he was quite confident. So he shook them and he narrated to them different verses from the Vedas. And he spoke philosophy. But no reaction from them. So Narad Muni was, really, shocked and sad. So he decided to go to Badrikashram, where Lord Nar Narayan lived. And he went there and asked them to help him. So they said, okay, let's see what arrangements we can make. So he left the hut where Nar Narayan stayed. But when he came out, he saw the Kumar brothers. Anybody knows the names of the Kumar brothers? And who are they?
Four Kumaras are there.
Sanat Kumaras.
The 4 Kumars, who are they? Names?
Sanat,
Sanat, yes.
Sanatan,
Yes.
Sanat, Sanatan.
Sanandan,
Sanandan, yes. And the 4th?
Sonak, no.
Sarat Kumar.
Sanat Kumar.
Right? So the 4 brothers, they are sons of Brahma.
Then who were Gyan and Vairagya, Prabhu?
So let me finish the story. Okay? Let me finish the story. So they came out, they were there. When Narad Muni came out, they were right there. And they asked Narad Muni, what's going on? Why are you so worried? Why are you looking so upset? So Narad Muni told them the whole story. And the Kumara said, well, why don't you narrate to these people Srimad Bhagavatam? And Narad Muni said, well, I gained the knowledge of the Vedas, but it had no effect on them. And he says, what is the difference between Vedas and Srimad Bhagavatam? Do you think it will make any difference? Why do you think that will make a difference? So then the Kumaras explained that, look, Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all the Vedas. It is the ripe fruit of the tree of the Vedas. And they also said that, listen, if you just suck on a limb or a twig or a leaf of a tree, you will not get the juice. You get the juice only when you taste the fruit. So that ripe fruit is Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore you must taste that. And then they offered to narrate Srimad Bhagavatam to Narad Muni, which of course he was very happy and readily accepted. So they started. And after a few days, as they were narrating Srimad Bhagavatam, a young woman suddenly appeared and he started dancing with 2 young boys. So they stopped. They said, Mataji, who are you? And who are these kids? I said, Narad Muni, you don't recognize me? I'm that Bhakti. I'm Bhakti. I'm that Bhakti. And these are my 2 children, Gyan and Vairagya. They have also become young now. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So the point is, the moral of the story is that devotional service appears from Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam gives you service which brings you closer to Krishna. And if we're not close to Krishna, we are close to Maya.
Maya.
And what are the 2 roles of Maya? Anybody knows? The 2 roles of Maya?
To keep us away from Krishna.
I'm sorry, Rajan Prabhu?
Sorry. To keep us away from Krishna.
Yes. Yep. Yes. And?
Patke marna.
Sorry?
Attached with the material world.
That's the reason. That's the reason.
Live in this world only.
2 potencies of Maya.
And to protect her brother from faltu entries.
Okay. So
testing of real devotion.
Okay. So it's 2 potencies. Covering potency, which means it covers your knowledge of yourself and Krishna and your relationship with Krishna. So that's the first potency. The second is it throws you away from Krishna. Pulls you away from Krishna, whatever word you want to use. These are the 2 things the Maya does. Rest is like byproducts. But these are the 2 main things. It covers your knowledge and understanding about yourself and Krishna and your relationship with Krishna. And it throws you away from Krishna. Okay? And then all the problems start. So therefore, by studying Srimad Bhagavatam, we turn away from Maya to Krishna. Well, so that was the second story. But you should ask the question. Well, okay, fine. So Narad Muni heard from Kumaras. Where did Kumaras hear from? So Srimad Bhagavatam explains in 3rd canto that
Lord Balaram
heard from Lord Sankarshan. Lord Sankarshan was Lord Balaram. Okay? So once again, pausing to see if any questions before I go to the 3rd story.
So if you, Prabhuji, if you can explain when Sankarshan or how Sankarshan told to Chaturkumaras.
Oh, it's a very short story, short mention that the Kumaras were, also having difficulties because if you remember, they were Gyanis, Shushk Gyanis, which is dry knowledge. So they were also looking for this kind of thing. they got the audience from Lord Shankarshan and they said, help me, help us rather. We need to become devotees. How do we do that? So they heard the entire Srimad Bhagavatam from Lord Shankarshan. Okay? All right. So let's go to the next one. How did it happen again? So this is a very interesting story. There was a Brahmin by the name of Atmadev.
What's that?
Atmadev.
Atmadev.
So like Atma. Atmadev.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a wife who had a very interesting name. It was Dhunali. Does anybody know what the word Dhunali means?
Dhundli. How to say that?
It's like blurry.
It's faded.
It's
Blurry.
धुंधला दिख रहा है.
Blurry.
Right? So it's not clear.
Blurry.
She
Yeah.
was not clear about the facts. She was not clear about the goal of life. She was not clear about many things. Not very smart person.
Yeah.
So, but Atmadev really loved her. So they wanted to have children, but no matter what he did, she would make sure she does not get pregnant. So Atmadev was very upset. So one time a Brahmin came. Atmadev, served him very nicely and asked for a benediction to have a child. So he gave him, the Brahmin gave Atmadev a fruit. I think it was mango. So you feed this to your wife and guarantee she'll become pregnant. So he gave it to his wife in good faith that she will eat it. She took it and said, wait a minute, if I eat this, I'll get pregnant. That'll spoil my figure, 36, 24, 36. Right? She said, I don't want to do that. And so she gave the fruit to their cow, one of their cows.
Yeah.
And she knew that her sister is pregnant. She made a deal with her sister that I'll give you so much money if you give me your child when it's born. So sister was also greedy, she agreed.
Oh.
So now the cow has eaten the fruit. So by default, she has to become pregnant. And it was supposed to be a man child, so she gave birth to a man child, but whose ears were like that of a cow. So his name was given Gokarna. Go means cow, Karna means ears. So the one with the ears of a cow is Gokarna. So this boy had the ears of a cow, less is human, and so he was given the name Gokarna. In the meantime, for all those 9 months, Dhunli was putting pillows and other coverings in her tummy to look pregnant. And when the child was brought by her sister, she threw away the coverings, got the child, said to her husband, this is our child. So husband was very happy, not knowing anything different, but he was also very affectionate to Gokarna for some reason, not knowing why. Anyway, then time went on, and over time they both grew up. But Gokarna grew up to be a wonderful devotee. Oh, I forgot to mention that the name of the other son was given Dhundukari. Dhundukari basically means one who creates blurriness.
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me. So they were both going together, Gokarna and Dhundukari, but totally different paths. One on devotional path, other on all sorts of nonsense you can imagine. And then soon his parents died, or their parents died, and that basically gave license to do whatever he wants, Dhundukari. And he started robbing people, stealing things from here and there, and he ultimately ended up marrying 5 prostitutes who were only interested in his money. So one time, Dhundukari went and stole something from the king's palace. When the wives found out, they were sure that he'll get caught. And they figured that if he gets caught, we'll be implicated as well. So they took burning coal, and when he was sleeping, they put the burning coal in his mouth and killed him. A very painful death. And because Dhundukari was so attached to everything in the house, he became a ghost. And he started living in the same house. But after some time, he got a ghost life is a very painful life. He got very tired and he realized who Gokarna was. in terms of his devotional service. So he appeared in front of him. He said, "My dear, I need help." And Gokul said, "Who are you? I've never seen you before." So he introduced himself. He said, "I'm your brother." And he told the whole story. I said, "Please help me." So Gokul didn't know how to help him. So he prayed to Lord Surya, the sun god, who said, "Narrate Srimad Bhagavatam to him." So Dudukari agreed, and he invited the entire village to also listen to Srimad Bhagavatam. And he took a bamboo stick and put it on the ground. This bamboo stick had 7 knots. And Dudukari sat on the bamboo stick. So this was arranged, the first Bhagavad Saptah, which is the 1-week narration of Srimad Bhagavatam. So everybody from the village came, and Dudukari sat on the bamboo stick, and Gokarna narrated. At the end of the first day, one of the knots of the bamboo stick burst open. Second day, second knot, third day, third knot. By the time the 7th day was finished, the entire bamboo stick, basically burst open, and a plane came to carry Dhundukari to the spiritual world. And everybody saw it as being carried to the spiritual world. So they all stopped and said, wait a minute, protest time. What is this? He heard, we heard. What is the difference? Why are you taking him, not us? What do you think they said? Anybody? Huh?
They were not attentive.
Yeah.
Attend.
They said you were not attentive. You didn't follow the process. You didn't have the same, what's the word I'm looking for? Same stakes in this thing that Dhundukari did. So they said, okay, please can you do this again? We promise to be attentive. We promise to hear it with faith. So Gokarna said, fine, so I'll do it again. And this time they paid attention, they heard it with full faith, they followed the process, and the airplane came and took everyone after to the spiritual world. So the moral of the story is that we must hear Srimad Bhagavatam attentively. Right? So once again, not rubbing, people the wrong way, those who cannot turn the video on, but that's the motivation that I had, to ask, because with the videos on, there's a greater likelihood that we'll pay attention and not multitask. If the video is not on, there can be a tendency to multitask. Okay. But again, I'm not pressuring anybody. If you can't do it, don't want to do it, that's fine. Okay. So, but that's the moral of that story. So any questions or comments on that?
Yeah, I have a question, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, please go ahead.
How Gokarna got to know about Bhagavatam?
Yes, so he had heard from his guru. Okay. So, by this time, Bhagavatam was being narrated in many places.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Gokarna actually born from cow, right?
Yes.
So, cow is... how Gokarna, while he was in the womb itself, he was listening to Bhagavatam, or after he took the birth?
He became a very good devotee, studying scriptures, listening to different devotees, classes and all that. Not on the internet, but, in person, and that's how he got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. All right. So I'll move to another one. Not in a lot of details, but maybe, no, you know what? I think this is interesting enough that I'll get into the details. This is about Shukdev. Does anybody know what the word Shukha means? Parrot. So this story is about how Shukdev got to be called Shukadev when he's not a parrot. Right? So basically, in his previous life, he was a parrot. And he was a very special parrot. He was a parrot, a personal parrot of Shrimati Radharani. Believe it or not.
Oh.
He was personal parrot of Shrimati Radharani. And you know what his role was? Anybody knows what his role was?
To narrate glories of
Glories
Krishna.
of Krishna.
No, they used to send messages.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He will
Between
carry.
Radha and Krishna.
Yes, Radharani's messages to Krishna and bring his message back to Radharani. He was
Messenger.
messenger. But can you imagine the privilege of being a messenger between Radha and Krishna? So that was this parrot. And he used to sit on Radharani's left hand. And you know what she did? As he was sitting on her left hand, she would feed very affectionately, feed him the seeds from pomegranate fruit. Imagine being fed by Radharani. just think, just for a second, think about Radharani feeding you very affectionately. And then she'll pet him very affectionately. And she'll say, Bolo Krishna, Bolo Krishna. What do you think he will say? Anybody?
He will say, Krishna, Krishna, Radhe, Radhe. Yes, Radhe.
He'll say Krishna, because she said, say Krishna, so he'll say Krishna.
Radhe,
Repeat that.
Radhe.
And he'll just very sweetly repeat Krishna, Krishna, etc. So, some of you may also have heard the name of a book called Anand Vrindavan Champu. It's written by Kavi Karnapur, who's another amazing, pure devotee. And he describes in Anand Vrindavan Champu a story of once this same parrot flew to Nandagram. Who lived in Nandagram?
Lord Shiva.
Sorry?
Lord Shiva.
No. That's, yeah, I mean, you were right.
Nanda Baba.
I'm not thinking of it. No, Krishna.
Krishna.
Lived in Nandagram, right? Nanda Baba's place. He lived in his father's place. So Krishna lived there. So he flew there. And he went to a kunja. Kunja is like a grove or a garden. He flew there. And Krishna was sitting there with his friend Madhumangal. And a few other people, few other boys, I mean. So the parrot sat on a branch of a pomegranate tree and very sweetly he started to utter Krishna's name. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Maybe sweeter than that, but he did. So Krishna looked around, who's taking my name? What's going on? He saw this parrot, sitting on the branch of this pomegranate tree. And he noticed that this parrot has got so much love in his eyes. And he's uttering his name so sweetly that Krishna's heart was moved. Because the parrot was taking Krishna's name so sweetly. And then the parrot spoke. He said, oh, I am very wretched and unfortunate. I am so ungrateful that I don't recognize the good qualities of anyone because, I've left my mistress, Radharani, and have come here. But he said in such a pitiable manner that Krishna was not just astonished, but also impressed at the same time. So he at once went to the parrot and took him in his hand and he began to fondle him. Now imagine being fondled by Lord Krishna. Anybody wants to be fondled by Krishna?
Yes.
Yes.
So just imagine,
Imagine.
Just imagine you're sitting
Yes.
on Krishna's hand and he's just going like this, softly, all over your body. Just imagine. That's what he was doing to his parrot. And then the parrot left and went back to Radharani. So, and sometime later, when it came time for Radha and Krishna to wrap up their pastime in the material world. So typically, all the devotees who come with Radha and Krishna to the material world, they also go back with them to the spiritual world when they wrap up. So when the parrot Shuka heard that, he expected to also be able to go back to spiritual world. But Radharani came to him and said, I want you to stay in the material world. Imagine being told by Radharani, don't come back with me. Stay in the material world. And he started crying. He started crying. He said, how do you think I'll live? How do you think I'll survive? How will I be able to live here without you? Without having my wonderful service of exchanging messages between you and Krishna. He said, my dear Mistress Radharani, I can tell you right now, I will not survive the separation. It's too much for me. Too much for me to bear. So please take me with you. And Radharani said, no, no. I assure you that you will not feel any separation from me wherever the transcendental pastimes of Krishna are being narrated. Repeat that. She said, you will not feel separation from me if you sit in a place where Krishna's pastimes are being narrated. And then she left and left him here. So right away, he started desperately looking for a place where Krishna Katha was going on. And he flew fast everywhere. Finally, he reached a place called Mount Kailash. Who lives there?
Shiva.
Lord Shiva.
Yes, Lord Shiva and Parvati are living there. So there just so happened, this Krishna's arrangement, just so happened that Mother Parvati had asked Lord Shiva to recite Srimad Bhagavatam to her. And he said, you know, it's very long. So if you want to hear it, you have to promise me one thing, that you will not fall asleep as I'm narrating it. And she promised. And he said, well, to make sure that I know, because I'll close my eyes as I narrate it, that I want to hear you say, What will she say? So Mother Parvati agreed, and they sat under a tree, and Lord Shiva started narrating it. So the Shuka, the parrot, saw this, so he hid on a green tree behind the green leaves. So like parrot is green, so he hides well under or behind the green leaves. So he sat there. So I didn't say it right. He sat on the same tree under which Lord Shiva was sitting, but he hid himself behind the trees, behind the leaves. And Mother Parvati was sitting right there, hearing the pastimes of her beloved Lord Krishna. And of course, Lord Shiva was completely absorbed in reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. And every few minutes, Mother Parvati would say, So Lord Shiva knew she's listening, and he continued, and that she had not dozed. However, what do you think happened after some time?
Bhugar Khogor story came when she fall asleep.
Say again?
The Shiva was discussing the Bhugar and Khogor part of Bhagavatam. When she fall asleep, she got bored.
So she fell asleep. I don't know about getting bored, but she fell asleep.
She fell asleep.
Okay. And so obviously, after that, when she went to sleep, she stopped making any sound. So now, the question I have is, anybody in the Zoom land following in the footsteps of Mother Parvati right now?
No. No.
Okay. All right, then. We'll continue then. Okay, so
That's another benefit of keeping the video on, maybe.
yes, there you go, Sonam. Yeah, you'll get caught. You know you'll get caught. This way, who knows? You might have just lifted your head to say it hasn't gone back. I'm just joking, Sonam. Okay. All right. So Mother Parvati stopped saying, So Shuka got worried that Lord Shiva was going to stop. So hiding behind the leaves, he started to make those sounds. Same way like Mother Parvati. So just when Srimad Bhagavatam was about to end, Mother Parvati woke up. And Lord Shiva wanted to know how she liked the narration. Expecting to be praised, obviously. So Mother Parvati begged forgiveness from Lord Shiva and said, I admit I had gone off to sleep. I'm so sorry. So when Lord Shiva heard that, he was amazed. He said, wait a minute, but I kept hearing the sound of So who was doing that sound if you were sleeping? And Mother Parvati said, I have no idea. I don't know. So Lord Shiva started looking all around to see if someone was hiding and hearing these pastimes. And he finally spotted the parrot hiding in the tree behind those green leaves. So he understood, like Lord Shiva understood, that this parrot has taken it all in. And he started to reflect that, this is an ignorant bird. This bird has heard Srimad Bhagavatam. But what do parrots do? Just repeat it like a parrot, right? So he'd go everywhere, simply repeat it, as parrots are prone to do, and he'll make a mockery of the great message of Bhagavatam. So Lord Shiva decided that this bird needs to be killed. So he picked up his trident and ran towards the parrot to kill him. Now, how many of you would like to see Lord Shiva running after you? The parrot in his hand. You won't, right? Well, Shiva didn't like it either, so he just ran for his life. Like great fear just took off. And Lord Shiva was in hot pursuit. And the chase was on. Parrot was flying as hard as he could in fear of his life. And the Lord Shiva was chasing him as hard as he could, trying to kill him. Soon the parrot reached the hermitage of Srila Vyasadeva. I mean, look at Krishna's arrangement. And what do you think Vyasadeva was doing at that time? Anybody?
He was writing Bhagavatam.
Yes, my wife said. She said that he was narrating Srimad Bhagavatam to his wife. What luck! And her name was Vatika, by the way.
Vatika.
Yeah. So he was narrating Srimad Bhagavatam to his wife Vatika. And it just so happened that while hearing this, she yawned. She yawned just at the point that the parrot entered the hut, and he saw the mouth open, he entered her mouth.
Yeah. Then Shukdev.
And just as he entered her mouth, so in the shock, she closed her mouth, and Lord Shiva entered the hermitage. And he asked Vyasa if he had seen the parrot. So Vyasa said, "Oh, Lord Shiva, please have a seat. What's up?" He didn't say, "Hey, what's up?" No. What's up, Shiva? No, he didn't do that. So he welcomed him, and he said, "How may I help you, Lord Shiva?" Who told the whole story. He said, "This is what happened. So I'm looking for that parrot." And he just happened to mention to Srila Vyasadeva that, anybody who hears Srimad Bhagavatam gets free from the cycle of birth and death and becomes immortal. Immortal. So Vyasadeva said, "Wait a minute. The parrot had heard the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore he's become immortal. So he cannot be killed. So what are you doing here?" And Lord Shiva said, "You're right." And he left. The parrot Shuka, who was now in the inside of the body of Vatika, took the form of a baby within her womb. So basically she got pregnant. But this baby would not come out of her womb. For how long?
16 years.
Okay, so my wife said 12 years, you said 15. So somebody
says
16.
Some people said 12, some people said 16. Doesn't matter. Not either way. For those Matajis who have born a child, they know how long 9 months is. Imagine a child being 16 years or 12 years. And it's growing in size too. It's not like staying like a 9-inch long baby or 19-inch long baby, whatever. It's like
a very long time over.
It's a very long time. So she was complaining to her husband, "Hey, do something, man, get this baby out of my womb." And so he was trying to talk to the baby. He was trying to talk to the baby in the womb of his wife, saying, "Hey, man, come out, enough. But the baby won't come out. Now he's become a teenager if he's 16 years, right? So finally, Vyasa said, "Well, what would it take to get you out? You have to come out. You can't stay there all the time." So then the baby spoke. And he said, "Unless I can be guaranteed that I will be completely liberated from the influence of Maya, I'm not coming out." Okay, so he said, "Guarantee me I will be free from the influence of Maya when I come out." So Vyasa said, "You're in luck. I'm Vyasadeva. I can give you that assurance. Come out, you will not be influenced by Maya." But the child said, "Why should I believe you? You're a married man. What do you mean you don't have the influence of Maya on you? So you're still attached to your wife. You cannot be free from the influence of Maya, so why should I believe you?" So Vyasa said, "Okay, the only person we'll lose to in our life is our children." So Vyasa said, "I lose, you win." And he went to Dwarka. At that time, Krishna was living there. And he informed Lord Krishna that I have a problem, help me. So Lord Krishna actually came to where Vyasadeva was living in his cottage. And he personally assured the child in the womb that come out, you will not be influenced by Maya, I assure you. When the baby heard that, he came out. But what do you think he did when he came out? He ran away. Immediately. I mean, he was only 16 years old. He could run faster than his old husband, old father. So he ran away. And Vyasadeva was chasing him. No, please stay, come back, please come back, please stay. But he did not do that. But Vyasadeva was desperate to have a son because he knew that I need a son who will, in the future, narrate Srimad Bhagavatam to other people. So he started sending his disciples all around, in all directions, to look for him. And so once there were a couple of them who were acting like a woodcutter. They climbed up a tree and they loudly chanted two very famous verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. The first one was Aho Bakiyam Istan Kalkutam, which basically talks about how Putana had put deadly poison on her breasts. And she tried to feed that poison to Lord Krishna. But Lord is so merciful that he granted Putana the position of a mother. And the verse says, how can I take shelter of anyone more merciful than that person who gives the position of mother to the person who's trying to kill him?
Kill him.
Right? And then the second verse was, and I don't remember the verse, but says that, I should say, it describes how beautiful Krishna looks. You know, yellow garments, peacock feather, Vajanti garland, dancing all the time into the forest and playing on his flute. Just describe that. When Shukadeva Goswami heard these two verses and the pastimes of Lord Krishna in these two verses, he came back running to his father and said, Father, please narrate Srimad Bhagavatam to me. And so Vyasadeva did. So this was the second time Shukadeva Goswami heard. First time as a parrot, second time as a boy. And later on, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it tells Parikshit Maharaj that actually I heard 4 times. So twice this we already talked about. Third time from Narad Muni. And fourth time from Agastya Muni. So Shukadeva himself heard it 4 times, believe it or not. And he said that I was a I was a liberated person, not attracted to anything in this world. But the Lord's qualities, the transcendental qualities of the Lord are so attractive that even though I was fully satisfied in myself, I was free from all kinds of material bondage, but I wanted to render unalloyed devotional service to Lord Krishna. I said that's Krishna's quality. He attracts everyone, even those who are known as Atmaram, fully satisfied in themselves. And then he said that those people who give full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, they achieve unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord Krishna. So let me repeat that. He said, one who gives full attention and respect to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, he can achieve unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord Krishna. Okay, so something we must remember. Okay. So again, I have lost count. I think it's about 9 or 10 by now, but Srimad Bhagavatam has been narrated. Before I go further, just looking at the time, 9:20. Okay. So I have 10 more minutes, I guess. So this very quick lessons from the life of Shukadeva Goswami. Hear attentively and understand the philosophy of the scriptures. And second point, we must preach to others about Srimad Bhagavatam so they also can become devotees of Krishna. That is the perfection of hearing and chanting. Okay. And then, of course, you all know the story of Suta Goswami narrating to the 88,000 rishis. What place was that?
Naimisharana.
Naimisharana. Yes. So, in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to talk about what Srimad Bhagavatam is about. But before I do that, any questions or comments?
Prabhu, many times in in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says Suta Goswami said, then it says Shukadev Goswami said. So it's very confusing who's saying who, and I get really confused actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, there are many people who are speaking in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Suta Goswami is saying it all, but he gives credit that this is said by Shukadev. This is said by Maitreya Muni. This is said by Krishna. This is said by Uddhava. So he's giving credit to whoever the real speaker is, but he's the one narrating it. Okay, the entire narration is by him, but he keeps quoting these people. So then you see Shuka Vacha, Bhakshi Bhagwana Vacha, Maitreya Vacha, those kind of things. Okay. All right.
Prabhu, is it happening simultaneously? Like both the narrations are, like when Sukadev Goswami is narrating to Maharaj Parikshit, and at the same time Suta Goswami is narrating to all the rishis?
No. So we'll talk more about this next week. But to answer your question, when Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die in 7 days, Sukadev Goswami narrated in the presence of many sages, including his own father Vyasdev, including his own spiritual master Narad Muni, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, all the demigods. Everybody was there listening to him. And Suta Goswami was there, also sitting in the back. And Sukadev Goswami pointed to him. He said, no, you sit in the front. You have a very special role in life to play. Knowing that at one point he'll have to say that. So Suta Goswami,
it happened separately, basically.
Totally separately, quite a number of years later. And Suta Goswami was saying, this is what I heard from my Guru Maharaj Shukdev. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. So then let's get into what is it about. So basically, I'm going to refer to the first 3 verses of the first canto, the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And there's something called Mangalacharan that every book has. Mangalacharan has 3 components. First is the identification of who your Ishtadev is, the worshipable deity, and the prayers to that. Second is Vastu Nirdesh, which means what's the objective of this book? What is it about? Third is Ashirvad, the blessings, like who's eligible to hear or read, and what's the benefit of reading it. So the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it starts with, anybody knows how it starts? The very first verse. The first 3 words. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So right away, identifying who's the Lord that I'm praying to. Right? Vasudeva. Who's Vasudeva? Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Right? So right away it's identifying. And then it says something in the praise of the Lord. It says, I offer you my obeisances. Namo means I offer you my obeisances. And it says, you are the absolute truth. And you are the cause of all creation, sustenance, and destruction of the material world. But you're aware of everything. Directly or indirectly, any manifestation or anything that happens, you know it. And you're supremely independent in that you don't depend upon anybody for anything. Everybody depends upon you, but you don't depend upon anybody. And you are the one who first imparted the Vedic knowledge through your flute to the heart of Lord Brahma, as we were talking before. And the knowledge that you give actually can confuse and put illusion even with demigods. But it is you who manifest all the universes in the material world. And you put everybody in illusion, but you are never affected by any kind of illusion. So therefore, I meditate upon you because you are the absolute supreme truth. So,
Satyam Param Dhimahi.
I'm sorry?
I was just saying the last line of the verse, Satyam Param Dhimai, something like that.
That's correct. That's exactly right. So, Satyam Param Dhimahi means I meditate upon the supreme truth or the absolute truth. Okay? So that's the very first verse. So in other words, it's all about Krishna and his incarnations and his creation and his maintenance and his sustenance, all those kind of things. It's all about Krishna and his activities. Right? So then he moves on. In the second verse, he says, what is the essence of this book? So
To
he says,
know Vasudev.
I'm sorry?
To know Vasudev.
Well, yes, but it uses different words. It's about Param Dharma, the supreme occupational duty, which is to develop love for Krishna by purifying our heart. And it says any other religion that does not lead to love of Krishna is a cheating religion. And that cheating religion is absent, completely absent from Srimad Bhagavatam. So, for example, even if we are performing devotional service for material gain, that's cheating religion. You can chant 16 rounds and can do all the artis in the world and bhogas in the world. But in your heart, you're saying, give me money, give me a daughter, give me a son, give me daughter-in-law, give me a big position. That's cheating religion. So he says, it's only about the pure loving service of the Lord. Everything else is rejected in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? And therefore, it's only for the people who feel no envy in their hearts against Krishna or anybody else. Only the people who feel no envy can actually relish Srimad Bhagavatam. Which means that today, I don't know if it's appropriate, but let me just say it anyway. Today, in our own heart, just vow to not blaspheme any other devotee, not criticize anybody. Okay? Again, I'm not asking you to do it out loud, but in your heart, think about doing that. Because it says very clearly, if you're full of envy, you're not going to understand or enjoy or relish Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. and it says there's no difference between Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound incarnation of Krishna. And you can experiment. If you're looking for an answer, obviously you cannot ask Krishna directly. But go to Srimad Bhagavatam, open a book, you find an answer you're looking for. So Krishna talks to us through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we can talk to Krishna through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's how we can develop a very personal relationship with Krishna. Okay? And then finally, the third verse is the blessed Ashirvad. It says that, listen, the Vedas are there, but the Vedas are like an ocean. Now, how many of you can drink the water directly from the ocean? Raise your hand. No, you can't. How many of you can use the water from ocean for irrigation purposes? They can't. However, how many of you can drink the water that comes from the clouds, falls like rain? All of us, right? All of us. But that water came from the ocean. So what's the difference? There was an agent in the middle, the clouds. So the devotees are like clouds. They can take the salty water of the ocean of the Vedas, and as cloud they can convert or take away the saltiness and put the sweetness of devotional service, sweetness of the love of Krishna in the message, so that when we get it, as he says, Srimad Bhagavatam Rasamalayam, we become the relisher of the nectar of the messages in Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's the blessing, that may you have the association of these devotees who will sweeten that water of the Vedas for us and distribute it to us. Which means that it's very fortunate for us to have the opportunity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam in the company of the devotees. And then they compares the Srimad Bhagavatam as the ripened fruit of the tree of the Vedas. And as I was saying before, you can chew on the twigs or chew on the leaves, branches, but you get no juice until you go to the fruit. But the fruit also, very interesting, if the fruit falls on the ground, what happens to the fruit? Generally speaking, it bursts. It's mixed with all the dust and dirt and everything else. However, it's fallen from one branch to another branch to another branch to another branch, and you hold it in your hand, and the sweetness and the wholeness of the fruit is maintained. That is called parampara system, which means we must get the message in disciplic succession, which means don't hear it from just any Tom, Dick, and Harry. Especially if their name is Tom, Dick, and Harry. Don't listen from them. If there's no Das in their name, ask yourself, do I really want to hear? Maybe not Rupanuga Das, but some other Das. That will give you the real substance. Okay? So that's what Srimad Bhagavatam is about. And then we'll talk, next week, we'll talk about how it came about, the Advent. And then we'll start getting into some philosophy and some pastimes. Okay? Any questions or comments? It's 9:30 exactly now, so a few more minutes. Any questions or comments?
I just want to you, Prabhu.
I'm sorry?
A big thank you to you, Prabhu, for making it so interesting and so simple. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I was just going to say exact same thing. Like, this reminds of the old days, Prabhu. Like, I was so eager. I was so eager for this day. When you said last week that I'm going to do Bhagavatam, I was waiting for this day. Seriously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Prabhu, I have a question in chat. Could you please answer me that, Prabhu?
Yes, actually, I've just going to do that. So basically, the answer is that Srimad Bhagavatam can be heard in any condition, in any situation. So there's no restriction.
Thank you. Thank you so much about that, Prabhu. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Rupanuga, did you have your hand up?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Go ahead.
Prabhuji, I have one confusion, or I think it could be an inappropriate question also. But my confusion is, like, as you said, in previous life, Sukdev Goswami was a parrot, or like he was.
I'm sorry, can you speak a little louder? No difficulty here.
Prabhuji, as you said, like in previous life, Sukdev Goswami was a parrot, like he was a personal messenger between Radha, Lord Krishna, and Radha. So, like when he appeared, in this lifetime, when he took birth from as a son of Vyasdev, when he came out, he was a Jnani. Like when he was a personal servant of Radha and Krishna, he got the personal association. Like why he was not a pure devotee at that time? Like I was confused. Like how we can understand this thing?
Yeah,
like unless he heard these two verses, he was not attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam or towards Krishna. So how we can understand this?
Yes, no, that's a very good question. Excellent question. And the answer is simple. The answer is that in all this, he forgot his knowledge. So the expression he uses is lost it. But lost is a very misleading term because you can never lose it. You can never lose your bhakti. You can never lose your devotional knowledge, understanding, and the concept. You can never do that. So the example is given that, I don't know if you have done this, but I've lost my car keys or my room keys or house keys. But have I actually lost it? Or have I just misplaced it and I can't remember where I put it?
Yeah, misplaced. Forgot, yeah.
But it's there. And one day I'll find it. So that's exactly what happened. Like something might remind you, something happens. Oh, yeah, I was in the dining room an hour ago. And you go and find it. Same thing. When he heard these two verses, everything came back. Everything came back. He said, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, this is what I want. This is what I need. I just need further elaboration, confirmation, etc. So you can run it. Otherwise, let me put it this way. No insult intended to anybody. So I'll speak about me. The same two verses that attracted Shukdev Goswami back to Vyasdev, I've heard them many times. Nothing happens in my heart. Nothing. No fluttering of the heart, no wanting to run to some devotee and ask to hear more. Nothing. No emotions I stirred. So why is that? Just 2 verses did that to Sukadeva Goswami, and 18,000 verses I've heard read at least twice. Nothing happens. I've heard so many times different verses, nothing happens. You hear about Lord Chaitanya hearing one verse, Pundarik Vidyanidhi hearing one verse, and they go crazy, start dancing and faint and all those kind of things. Nothing like that happens to me. Why? Because I never had it that same way. So I'm just like you all, we're just adding a little bit. Hopefully one day we'll be at that point where it just kindles itself. Okay?
So it was arranged by Lord Krishna so
Everything.
that it
Everything.
happened.
Yes. Totally arranged. I mean, look at it this way. If Vyasdev had written all this, that this is how it's going to happen, the Sud Goswami will also narrate it. It's already written by him years before it happened, which means even Vyasdev knew.
Yes.
Right? And I should also tell you, in Srimad Bhagavatam, which was written 5,000 years ago, is description of events that happened 2,000 years ago, about Chandragupta Maurya, about Chanakya. It's written in Srimad Bhagavatam, that's written 5,000 years ago, which is predicting events that will happen 3,000 years from now, or from then, I should say. So therefore, these people are Trikalagya. They know the past, they know the present, they know the future. So they can write it. And that's what happened.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure, you're welcome.
So, Prabhu, you mentioned that we should read Bhagavatam every day, like whether one verse, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But when we start reading, we are not going to be able to understand everything that's written there.
Yes.
So, in spite of that, should we still continue to read?
Absolutely.
Without understanding?
Absolutely. Because you understand more than you realize. And it makes an imprint. Because remember, it's totally purifying agent. So it may not purify you 99% of the first day, it might purify you only 0.0000009%. But if you keep doing it, it accumulates. It's like, I don't know why, but I'm reminded of a story about a mathematician who was also, with his knowledge of mathematics, was also a very good astrologer. So once he predicted the solar eclipse, and it happens. The king got really scared. He says, now you have to find some way to get rid of it because this is crazy. So he knew it's going to be 30 minutes before it happens. So he said, no problem. Just give me 30 minutes. Let me chant my mantras. And I'll make it happen. I'll make the sun appear again. 30 minutes later, there was sun again. So the king was very happy. He said, ask me for anything you want. And you know what he asked? He said, give me a grain of rice on day 1. Double that day 2, double that again 3, double that again 4, only for 64 days, as many days as the boxes on a chessboard. And the king laughed at him. He said, you fool, I thought you were an intelligent person. I thought you were an intelligent person. You'd ask something big. He said, no, I'm not greedy. I just want that. So the king said, okay, make arrangements. Now, can anybody guess what 2 to the power 64 is?
Krishna.
No, not Krishna. I'm just talking mundane terms. Like it's a number that there was not enough rice or money to buy enough rice to be equal to 2 to the power 64 number of grains. And that's my point. It's multiplying every day. It's multiplying every day. So as you stay with it, keep reading, verification happening. One day, with a pure devotee on your way to go to Dham, please grab my hand. Take me with you. And that's the effect of studying Srimad Bhagavatam every day. Damodar Charan Prabhu?
So yesterday, just and Rukmini Sudha were discussing it. Rukmini Sudha told me this. That Prabhu, pata hai aapko ki even just reciting these verses, even if you don't know the meaning, just reciting these verses will also purify us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even if you hear a portion of it from somebody, it doesn't matter, as long as it's a devotee. That's the only criteria. Anything else? Okay, then we'll stop. Thank you again very much for really attentively listening. And I'll see you next week.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
It was wonderful.
Hare
Very
Krishna,
nice.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Really.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.